very good afternoon to you, our cherished listeners and viewers. Also, we're excited to welcome you to yet another exciting edition of your favorite business development program on Radio Masterclass. Masterclass is powered by Joy Business and brought to us by Goyle. Goyle, they say good energy. Goyle, Yenara, Yedia. My name, as always, is Yaw Barnafo, and I'm excited to be your host for the show today. We'll be continuing with our conversation as we started last week on business compliance and corporate governance. Last week we had with us in the studio, we're privileged to have with us in the studio the head of legal of the legal department of Firstcode Management Services, and he shared with us some wonderful thoughts on things that we should look out for when it comes to corporate governance. Today we continue that conversation, but we'll be dwelling a bit more on the area of compliance. You know, we set up our businesses and sometimes we just go straight to business of selling and of putting services out there and of putting products out there. But we must remember that our businesses, first of all, have to be registered at the Registrar Generals because we exist in a country and there are laws that govern the way we do business and the way we do things. It's absolutely important also not just to know about these laws, but also to be able to work towards complying with them. And that's where the issue of compliance comes in. And the reason for being able to comply is because for all the issues where they are non-compliant, the law also prescribes sanction. And some of these sanctions usually are in the area of penalties or penal payments to businesses. Let's remember that the reason you set up that business, other than fulfillment, other than trying to put some services out there to make people's lives better, is also to make a bit of money for yourself. Now, if you're making all of that money and you're paying it back in penalties, surely that becomes a difficult thing. Even more so when it's not just about you anymore, but also of your workers. Because if the funds that are available for you to put the business out there, it's being used to pay penalties and taxes that you haven't paid, or penalties for things you should have done that you didn't do, then you become limited on money to even be able to pay salaries. And then you go into litigation, and then you go into labor issues, and the list goes on and on and on from there. Today, we're happy to have back with us in the conversation Richard Adu-Darko. Richard, you're welcome back to the conversation.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here again.
Yes, we're excited to have you here. And feedback from last week's show is that people really picked up a few tidbits.
That's great.
More than a few tidbits. And today, we're hoping to get a bit more.
Sure.
Because like I always say here on the show, the things that we share here on Masterclass, you know, we take the pains to bring people who are renowned in their various fields of endeavor, so that they share information, because information is power. Once you have the information, you have the influence, you have the power to make more money. So what we share here is golden. It's even more valuable than money. And by all means, do pick up your pens and make sure that you make all the notes that you can. We're also streaming live on Facebook for those who want to watch us. If you're driving, you can by all means put your radio here and listen to us. And when we do get interactive, you can also be a part of that conversation. Just in about 30 seconds or so, Richard, because today I want us to dwell a bit more on the area of compliance. For those of our listeners who missed the conversation last week, we spoke about corporate governance. Could you just sort of do a quick recap on that conversation, and then we can sort of go into today's conversation if you like?
Great.
Yes.
So last week, we considered corporate governance, and our focus was more on the board of directors and how to set up a proper board, get the right qualification, get the right people, and then make sure that the systems are working within the organization, such that the business is not just yours anymore. You are different from the business. So the entity is separate from your personality. And we considered our culture and how our culture influences the way we do business. That if you are able to distinguish between our personality and our entities, then the business will grow. So that's basically what we discussed with regards to corporate governance, especially with the formation of board of directors.
I remember something that was quite interesting in the conversation we had.
Yeah.
And, you know, opening the show today, I did say that the way we do business in any context, this time our context is Ghana because this is where we are, is governed by law.
Sure.
A lot of people do businesses on their own because maybe there's a family recipe. Maybe this family is good at, let's say, healing bones. I'm talking about context in Ghana.
Yeah.
This family is good, so when somebody breaks a bone, they're able to help you to mend it, and then they take a token for it. It's good, and nobody talks about it until you register it, and it becomes a legal business. Now, we talked about the different types of businesses that can be registered as sole proprietorships, partnerships, and limited liabilities.
Yeah.
Our focus last week was on limited liabilities.
Sure.
And we're saying that the way you run a sole proprietorship, or an unregistered business is significantly different from the way you should run a limited liability. In fact, the law pays a bit more attention to you the moment you add limited to your name, to the extent that we talked about Bolton. We said when you are an owner of a business, you necessarily do not qualify to be on the board of that business by virtue of being the owner. In fact, there are steps to follow, and all of that information is available in the New Companies Act. I remember you mentioned that. So if you own a business, it's not by force, if I can borrow that phrase, that you should necessarily be on the board of that institution. And gradually, there's a lot of education going on, and compliance is going to set in, very soon. I think that since the new act came into force, a bit of a grace period has been given for people to sort of fall in line and begin to do the right thing. So you're listening to us, you have a business, talk to your lawyer. If you don't have a company lawyer, by all means, there's a lawyer who consults for you. Talk to them and find out, I'm a limited liability, I run a business. What are the requirements of me regarding the law, so that the law doesn't catch up with me? Oftentimes, we just focus on the tax bit and then we forget. Let's go into today's conversation, compliance, because that's where the issue comes in. There will be no compliance if there is no breach or there is no potential of breach.
Exactly.
I was reading earlier before I came on the show, and I was looking at some of the famous statements that have been made regarding compliance. And one of the statements I read said that we're looking at corporate governance becoming the gold standard, or compliance becoming the gold standard, so that everyone can follow it. Talk to us about compliance.
Great.
And make it relevant to our context here in Ghana.
Sure. So when we talk about business compliance, it's simply adhering to the specific statutory requirements in order to be protected and to avoid liabilities attended with default of same. So let's say you have a business, you've set it up already, the board is in place, and you start working. What are the things that you need to comply with? So compliance comes from the word compliance. I mean, complying with a requirement. The law that governs compliance is the Companies Act. There are other regulations, there are other laws that are industry specific. But if you are looking at the generality of businesses, so entities that have been formed in Ghana here, or that are operating in this country, then we are looking at the Companies Act, Act 992, that's 2019. This is the new law that is taking care of businesses and how they have to comply with the laws and regulations that there is. So first and foremost, you have to choose the appropriate business vehicle. So either you are a sole proprietor, you are a partnership, or you are limited by guarantee, or an unlimited company, or a limited by shares company. You have to know that this bit of business vehicle that you've chosen is proper for the business you want to do. So if you think that your business is not going to be that big and you want to be the sole owner of the business and be in charge, then you have no business to have a limited by shares company. Rather, you can do a sole proprietorship. So I want us to focus on companies operating in Ghana limited by shares, like we studied last week when we dealt with companies limited by shares. So when it comes to compliance, before you even set up the business, you are pregnant with the idea, then you go to Registrar General. You want to start. You want to know whether your name that you've chosen is available and all of that. There are engagements that you go through. You get promoters. You get into contracts. You even get contracts for people who are designing your office for you, who are putting up billboards and all of that. These people are people that are going to help you set up your business. When you start these arrangements with them and you have that contract with them, what it means is that you are engaging them in the name of your company, the company that is yet to be born. These are pre-incorporation contracts. When you set up the business and finally Registrar General gives you the go-ahead and the business operating permit and you are supposed to commence operations, the moment you start, the first thing you have to do is to ratify the various engagements you had with these entities or promoters or people that you had the business with. So if you had the business, you had a contract with someone who was going to supply you with, let's say, an office equipment, and you didn't sign an agreement, or you signed an agreement in the name of the company, when you register the company, you need to make sure that you ratify that agreement that you had or that contract that you had. Let's say you had directors, people that you thought were going to be directors, and then you put their names in the registration of the business. So Registrar General has those people's names as the people that have registered for the business, or the directors of the business as you have registered it. And then at a point, you get all the setup done, everything is fine, and you intend to continue with them. Then you have to ratify every engagement you had with them, because at that point, they may be promoters. They were helping you set up the business. Then we have what we call even nominee directors. There are people you can appoint to be on your board for purposes of registration. But after registration, you may not want to keep them, or you may want to keep them. If you need any of these people and you have services with them, you have an arrangement with them, you have contracts with them, at the end of the day when you are registered, you need to ratify the engagement that you had with these people. So when it comes to pre-incorporation contract and the requirement to ratify these contracts, is catered for under Section 11 of the Companies Act that says that make sure you do this. This is a law that you need to comply with. So you cannot play with it. Then you come to, after you've set up the business, you need to hold annual general meetings. It is a requirement of the law pursuant to Section 157 of the Companies Act that hold annual general meetings. When you have the company and you don't hold annual general meetings, the registrar of company can sanction you for not holding your annual general meeting. So it is a mandate. You are required by the law to make sure that you have annual general meetings held at least in between every 15 months. So every 15 months, you should make sure that there's an annual general meeting held for the company, and then you report to the Registrar General with this annual general meeting. And then when you have resolutions during these meetings, you need to notify the Registrar General and then file these resolutions at the Registrar General. So assuming that in one of your annual general meetings, you decided that the company secretary should be changed, and then you voted on it and you've taken a decision and you've gotten a new company secretary, you need to file at the Registrar General and notify the Registrar of Companies that this has taken place and that now there's a new secretary, or there's a new director, or there's a new member of the company. You need to make sure that these things are done. And then still on the registration of certain resolutions, you must make sure that those resolutions are certified. You don't just send a document to the Registrar General and say that you have changed a director, or you have changed someone, you've taken a decision. You need to ratify it. And when you ratify, it should be done within 28 days of passing that resolution. And this is a requirement of the law. You are mandated that take this step within this number of days and make sure that it is done. If you don't do it, you have gone against the law. You have breached the law. And then there are accompanying punishments for that. Another area of what do we call business compliance that we have to look at is the filing of annual returns. So when you set up your company, though it's a business that you have set up on your own, like we said earlier, it does not belong to you. The company belongs, it has a separate entity on its own. So it belongs to the members, it belongs to whoever is involved in the business. And then you have to make sure that the dealings of the company, your financial statement, you have to make sure that everything that has got to do with the company is reported to the Registrar General in the form of annual returns. That is also catered for in Section 126 of the Companies Act. It says that make sure that every year, after 36 days, that you have completed your financial statements, and same has been given to all those that matters. So let's say the auditors and the directors and everybody have been given a copy, members have been given a copy of the financial statement that has been audited. Then you have to file at the Registrar General's Department. There is a form that you need to fill together with the financial statement. And then if you're a company limited by shares, a private company limited by shares, as we have indicated, there should be a certification that the company has not invited any member of the public to acquire shares. What this means is that you are a company, you said you are private limited by shares. So you cannot go out in the public space, let's say the stock market, and say that you are asking for people to become members of that company. It means you are floating shares and you are selling those shares for people to become members of that company. That one is in breach of the law. So when you are filing your annual returns, you make sure that you have a certification that says that within this period that we operated, for the last 12 months that we worked as a company, we are a private company limited by shares, and we have not invited any public member to buy shares in this company. Then you also have to get a certification that the number of members and debenture holders of the company does not exceed 50. These are all requirements of the law that you need to comply with. You need to have a written statement by the auditors and the financial statement to indicate that all the members have gotten the financial statement, all the auditors, every member of the company, every person that matters in the company has received a certified copy of the financial statement that you are going to file with the Registrar General. And then a written statement that the body corporate is not for beneficial interest of any other organization. So you have to make sure that you make all these declarations before you go to the Registrar General with your annual report forms, and then say that you are going to file your annual returns. If you don't do this, what it means is that you are going to face administrative penalties of 25 penalty unit each day that you default. And that is not just you as the CEO, but managing director, those we call the officers of the company, and then the directors. Any other person that is at the top hierarchy of the company, together with the company, are jointly and severally liable to pay 25 penalty units each day that you continue to default on this.
It sounds like a very tall order, very daunting, but it's something that must be done, like you're saying,
yes,
because that's the position of the law,
yes,
which is why you need the help of a lawyer in order to do this. And if you're listening to us, don't be intimidated, don't be afraid. That's what the lawyers are trained to do. They're trained to be able to give us, the direction in dealing with some of these things. But you just mentioned a certain phrase which is of keen interest to me: jointly and severally. For the layperson listening to us, they're thinking that if it's a sole proprietorship, and that's what we've always, when we went to business school, I mean, in the basic form of it,
yes,
this is what we are taught, that if it's a sole proprietorship, it's you. If something goes wrong, they're coming for your house, they're coming for your car.
yes.
If it's a company limited by shares, it hits the company, and it's not you. I mean, when it goes to court, if you declare bankruptcy or whatever, it doesn't touch your person. But you're talking about being jointly and severally liable for 25 penalty points.
Yeah.
Even before we go to the definition of what the 25 penalty points are in terms of money, talk to us about liability to the person on the board, liability to the person of the CEO, when he is a CEO or a board member of a limited liability company. And I'm asking this question for education.
Yes.
So in answering it, let's educate our listeners.
So remember last week we looked at facing civil liabilities or criminal liabilities.
Correct.
If you are a board member and you do things in the name of the company that you are not mandated to do, and it's criminal in nature or is in breach of the law.
Vicarious liability.
Yes. So today, what we are saying is that if you are an officer, and by officer we mean the top hierarchy of the business, or you are a member or a board of director of the company, either an executive or a non-executive, our law just identifies all directors as directors. So whichever role that you play, you are part of the direction of the company. You are part of the decision making of the company. So things that you are supposed to comply with in the law, if you fail to do it, it means that it was either deliberate, it was out of your negligence, and we cannot just hold just the company. The company is run by human beings. So you have a responsibility as a person, and then the company as a legal entity, to face these administrative penal charges. So the punishment is not just for the company, which is limited in nature, but you as an officer of the company as well. And that is what the law says.
Was this the position before the New Companies Act?
Yes. It has been re-emphasized and re-echoed in this new act.
So you're listening to us. Our theology is changing. In school, when we're doing science in the beginning, they'll teach you that, XYZ happens at this point. As you grow, you are also personally liable. And it's important that we absolutely understand that. And, like Richard is sharing with us, this position is even more so reinforced by the New Companies Act, which has sought to bring some kind of sanity into the corporate governance aspect of the way we run businesses in this country. If you're just tuned in and listening to us, this is Masterclass here on your Superstation, and we're sharing thoughts on business compliance. We'll be getting interactive at some point, but before we do that, let's listen to a few more thoughts from Richard.
Yes. So other things that you need to comply with as a business is that whenever there is a change in auditors, you need to notify the registrar of companies that these changes have taken place. And then whenever you have an alteration in your stated capital, so let's say when you were starting the business, you said you were going to have a stated capital, or you are starting the business with, let's say, 100,000 Ghana cedis or 10,000 Ghana cedis, and now it changes to, let's say, 500,000. You need to let the registrar of companies be aware of these alterations that have gone into your stated capital. In case there is a share transfer, so you have 70% shares, or you even have 100% shares as a member, you are the only shareholder, and now you intend to give other shares to other people that have invested in the business, and you make that arrangement. When you do these share transfers, you need to file a copy with the registrar of companies to indicate that this company is now being owned in terms of percentages by Mr. A or Mrs. B or this person or this entity that is now part of the company. And even when the objects of the company changes, so when you were starting, you said you were going to deliver, let's say, water services, so you are going to give news items to people, and now you have changed into doing other things other than broadcasting. You need to notify the registrar of companies that your object has changed from, let's say, broadcasting to other businesses.
Would that be the reason why people now these days, when they're registering businesses, would state the specific thing they're doing, but also register as a general merchant? Because you see, maybe I started out and I wanted to sell water.
Yes.
But I'm looking at the water market, and I think that now Ghanaians prefer something else. So I want to change my business slightly. Number one, should that inform people when they're making the decision to register? Because this information is required on the registration form.
Yes.
Number two, is there a catch-all phrase? I mean, I use that guidedly, to guard against a situation where you went in for one thing and now you're going in for another thing without necessarily going through the entire process, the tedious process of updating your records.
It's not too tedious when you want to change the object, or you want to alter the object of your business. So you start off as a broadcasting entity, and you think that now selling water will also help. I mean, nothing restricts you from just going to the registrar of companies. And if some of these things are too hard for you, that's why an entity like Firstcode is there. We support businesses to do some of these things, because it's not everything that you can be doing when you are focusing on the day-to-day administration of the company. So when it comes to compliance, when it comes to making sure that we adhere to the laws and the regulations that it is for companies, then you get in touch with a management consultancy organization such as ours, and then we will help you deal with these things.
Hold your hand through the process.
Yes, we'll hold your, because we've done it over so many years, almost about 20 years now. So I mean, it's quite easier, and then we have that experience on the ground to know how to, I mean, navigate through
the tenacity to deal with
exactly with the right people.
With the otherwise tedious process.
But I mean, it doesn't harm you in any way when you say that you're going to engage in general, you are going to be a general merchant together with other objects that you have stated. But mind you, you may want to get a certain contract in a certain specific area. And when you say general merchant, and then, I mean, people would want to take you serious. What is general merchant? You should be known for something. So it's best that you indicate the objects that you have. And if there is any alteration, you think there are any amendments to be done, or you want to change, or you want to even depart from your original object, you can just go to the Registrar General.
So the best advice we're giving our listeners is that be sure of exactly what you want to do and go for it. If at any point in your business you think that you want to divert, go and do an update.
Exactly.
I mean, it presents a more serious front on what you're doing.
Yes.
Right.
Okay. So other compliant issues, and I think that's also very important to attend to when you have a business, is look at your social security. So when you are starting off, I mean, registering with the Registrar General's Department, you are made to register with the social security and then bring a letter of a sort to show that, yes, indeed, you are registered with social security. But sometimes you get the initial letter, but you may have to also register even your employees who are not registered on social security. Encourage them to register, and then make sure you pay their social securities for them. So you don't just limit it to the company, but the members, I mean the employees of the company, make sure that they are all also registered on social security, and then their SNIT is also paid. And then we look at EPA for purposes of companies that may need a certain environmental validation before they go ahead with their business. You need to go to the Environmental Protection Agency
either in
and make
construction
sure
or
that
something
you are registered, and then you take
noise pollution
noise
or
pollution and
manufacturing
all of that,
or something
the
like
environment and everything,
Right.
and then the renewal of such permit, and then the Department of Factories Inspectorate. Your office needs to be checked.
Inspected.
Yes, and make sure that it is in compliance with the rules and regulations as stated in the law when it comes to factories and when it comes to offices. So the chairs you use in the office, the kind of environment that you have there, even sanitary conditions and all of that, you need to get a certification from the factories and offices inspectorate department to get.
But this would typically be done at the beginning of your business, isn't it?
Yes, but compliance is a continuous process. Once you've gotten the initial certification, you need to renew.
Right.
So when you have it and you are going through renewal, you make sure that the things that were there before or things that you were recommended to improve upon, you have complied with those things. Yes. So it is not just at the initial registration point, but almost all of these organizations will require you to renew whatever you have registered at a point in time. Sometimes it's annually, sometimes it's biannually. It depends on the requirement of the law with regards to that specific organization.
Right.
And then the MMDAs, district, municipal,
and the agencies.
You need these business operating permits, and it's also renewed. So every year you make sure that all these things are done for your company to continue to be on the right standing. And then lastly, we may have to look at Ghana Revenue Authority and the requirement of the law with regards to registration and filing of your taxes. So we look at corporate income tax, we look at value-added tax, we look at withholding taxes, we look at payee tax that is deducted and paid on behalf of employees, and then we look at the personal income tax for directors and self-employed. So all these taxes are things that you have to look at when you register with the Ghana Revenue Authority, because mind you, you are supposed to have a financial statement submitted to the Registrar of Companies when you are filing your annual returns.
Right. Interesting thoughts. I mean, I know that our listeners want to be part of it. Today, I want to be able to try and open the phone lines slightly earlier than normal so that our listeners can also be a part of this conversation and share some wonderful thoughts for us. But just as we're sharing some wonderful thoughts for our listeners here on business compliance, I also have some wonderful information here, perhaps even for you, Richard. I don't know where you buy your fuel, but Goyle has some very great information for us. And going cashless has never been this convenient and exciting. Goyle's e-payment systems are now compatible with the GH Link and the national payment platforms. Now you can use your GH Link card on Goyle's POS machines to purchase fuel. The GH Link card offers additional payment options for fuel purchases at Goyle stations in addition to the Go card. Every fuel purchased is recorded automatically on your monthly bank statements, helping cardholders track and manage their expenses. So go ahead and use your GH Link card to buy fuel and all lubricants from any of Goyle's over 400 stations across Ghana. Go cashless and protect yourself, and stick to all the COVID-19 protocols in these times. Goyle, they say good energy. Goyle, Yenara, Yedia. Richard, if you don't have a Goyle card, I strongly recommend that after this show, you go and get yourself a Goyle card. We want to get interactive so that you can be a part of this conversation, but we'll take a quick message from our sponsors. We'll be right back.
Your favorite on-air business development program, Joy Business Masterclass, is in session, and you can interact with us on Facebook via the Joy 99.7 FM or Joy Business pages. If you tweet, the handle is at Joy 997 FM or at Joy Business GH. Don't forget to hashtag JB Masterclass. You can also call us on 0302 216541 or send your questions and contributions through to the WhatsApp number 0551 111997, and our facilitators will address your concerns. Attention everyone, class is in progress.
Welcome back. This is Masterclass. If you've just tuned in, Masterclass today is brought to us by Goyle. Goyle, they say good energy. Goyle, Yenara, Yedia. On the show today, we're having a big conversation here on business compliance. Business compliance. What kind of business do you have? How have you registered it? Is it a sole proprietorship? Is it a business, a company limited by shares? Is it a company limited by guarantee? Whatever it is, have you even registered it at all? We're having a big conversation here today. What's the position of the law regarding the company that you have and the business that you do? And like I said here when we were introducing this conversation, the way we do business in this country, which is Ghana, our own country, is also prescribed by law and regulated by law. So it's absolutely important to know what the law says regarding how you can do your business, so that you don't find yourself falling foul of the law and finding yourself in a place where you have to pay penalties. Earlier on in the conversation, Richard was sharing with us about some of the sanctions that the law prescribes, penalty points. I'm going to be asking him how those penalty points convert into cash. But we are interactive right now. You can pick up that phone, give us a call, 0302 216 541. That's 0302 216 541. What kind of company do you have? How have you handled your business compliance? What is it that you do in your business regarding how to comply with your regulator? You know, what field do you work in? Are you in manufacturing? Are you in the service industry? Do you sell a product? Are you in the retail industry? What do you do? Who are your regulators? How are you complying? And share some thoughts with us. We cannot all be making the same mistakes, so let's learn from each other's mistakes. You can also send us your comments on 055 997. That's 055 1197. Pick up that phone, give us a call on 0302 216 541. Richard, while we're waiting for the phone lines to ring, you talked about penalty points.
Yes.
How is it converted to cash?
Okay, so
one penalty point is like how much?
12 Ghana cedis.
One penalty point.
Yes.
Is
So
12
if you are
Ghana cedis.
paying, let's say, 100 penalty points, it's multiplied by 12 Ghana cedis.
Right.
So in the case of not complying with the annual returns, it means that each officer, together with the company, will be paying 12 times 25 every day.
Every day?
Yes, that you default.
That you are in breach?
Yes.
That's money that could be put to better use.
Exactly. So these monies could have gone into the growth of the business. You could have plowed back into the business. I mean, why would you have to wait and get to the point that you need to pay these monies as administrative penal charges? This just for administrative penal charges.
And even if you report this in your financials to anybody,
it doesn't look good for
or to
you
a
as
regulator,
a
it doesn't
company.
look good. It doesn't
Yes.
look at all. You also used another phrase, executive and non-executive board members.
Yes.
What is that?
So the executive board members are the members of the board that are directly involved in the day-to-day
So
administration.
management staff who are on the board.
Yes.
Right.
Who are, involved in the day-to-day administration of the company. And then the non-executive are those that would only come in during board meetings and profess their ideas and all of that, but they are not part of the day-to-day administration. Of the business.
Right. So it's absolutely important here also to know the difference between executive and non-executive directors. There's a phrase that I came up with, when I was preparing for the show.
Yes.
Beneficial ownership, and
Yes.
I understand that's important to be declared.
Yes.
When you are filling your forms or filing your returns or
Yes.
dealing with the Registrar General.
Yes.
What is beneficial ownership and how is it important in this conversation?
So last week we tackled something similar to beneficial ownership. So we want to know everyone who is behind the business or who benefits from the business. So if you are, let's say, hiding behind somebody or fronting for somebody, now the law requires that whoever is benefiting in a way or has interest in the business should be disclosed.
What's the rationale?
So that people don't hide behind entities and then be doing share transfer pricing and those things that we discussed.
So maybe I'm just shy. I just don't want people to know that it's my company. I don't want people to know that I have money. I mean, why can't I hide?
Now we need to know you. Because we are in this country that banks collapsed.
Yeah.
And some owners of those banks were the ones collapsing the banks. Some of them were taking money. Some of their entities, their companies, their other companies were taking loans, and it became bad loans for these banks, and it was sitting in their books. And because, like I said earlier last week, that based on our culture and our experiences, when the boss speaks, no one speaks. The real owner is hiding behind somebody.
Proverbs.
Yes.
Proverbs to support that.
Yes. The real boss is hiding behind someone, and that person is sitting as the, let's say, shareholder or a majority shareholder, but someone is behind, and that person has another entity and is taking money, and you are asked to record as an accountant in a certain way so that it does not show up. So now the law wants to know everyone who is behind.
Yeah. I think it's just, over time, I mean, I make the example of the Proverbs. I think we're just sort of coming to a place as a people where we are misapplying, we're looking for opportunities to misapply even the things which have otherwise guided us in the past.
Yes.
And definitely we need to work on our attitudes as well. You talked about floating shares and going to the public, and essentially what that is going to the public and say, listen, I'm going to give you a piece of my company in exchange for some amount of money.
Yes.
Number one, so that I become liquid and I can trade. Number two,
Yes.
so that I'm on the stock exchange. The integrity comes up. There are a lot of benefits for
Yes.
listing on the stock exchange and
Yes.
for floating.
Yes.
Now, what will pre-qualify a company? What are the things to do as a company who's listening to us who wants to float shares? Can any limited liability company float shares?
Yes, if you want to float shares, there are laid down regulations that you have to adhere to. So the stock exchange, like I said, is there. You have to approach them, indicate to them that this is what you want to do. And now your objects and all the things that you sought to do as a company initially, you may have to look at it, whether the stock exchange will allow you, the rules governing the stock exchange will allow you to be able to go on the market, the public market, to ask people to come and then put their monies in your business. We have to make sure that your company is such that when it collapses, we are not going to have so many people going to lose.
It's fear of damage.
Yes, so we have to look at your finances and all of that. So if you want to go public in future, you have to start now, making sure that you are in compliance with the law. Your taxes are well paid. All the things that you need to do in relation to business compliance are being done, so that tomorrow when you intend to go public, then you may qualify. But if your books are not well kept, if you are not in compliance with the law, then you have no business even going to the public, because within your small space, you couldn't even manage your affairs. So
as you speak, something comes to my mind. One of the things that we should do as compliance for businesses is keep your books well. Keep your books well, because when you start to file your taxes, tax returns at the GRN and with other regulators, these questions will come up. And if your books are not properly kept, then it also becomes a sore point where you can actually fall into breach.
Sure.
And then be sanctioned appropriately. Yes. We're interactive right now. This is Masterclass. Numbers to call 0302 216 541. That's 0302 216 541. You can also send us your comments on 055 11 997. If you're watching us on Facebook, you can post your questions there, and our production crew will make sure that we get your questions and address them.
So one area that we also have to look at is the industry-specific regulations that we need to comply with. So we discovered oil some years back, and now we have the Petroleum Commission, we have all these institutions that are there to support local businesses and even foreign businesses who wants to come and trade or do upstream or downstream oil business. So the Petroleum Commission, for instance, has a local content law that helps indigenous Ghanaian businesses to partner with foreign companies. So, first, a foreign company intending to come to Ghana may either come and register a branch office here, or they will even let someone front for them and then be doing business on it. Now, you are allowed to come here, incorporate as a Ghanaian, a foreign company incorporated in Ghana here, and then partner with a Ghanaian company, indigenous Ghanaian company, and form what we call a JV, joint venture. When you have the JV, then you can apply for contract. So the indigenous Ghanaian company is registered with the Petroleum Commission, and then the foreign entity comes, you register with GIPC, and then you have your footing here. Then you have a JV that can get contracts. The idea is to have knowledge and skill transfer to these local businesses. So as we are here in Ghana and we have such an industry that is booming, we should take advantage of some of these opportunities and then register our businesses such that when we keep our books well, we will attract these foreign companies who will come and partner with us, and then you'll be a beneficiary of this oil boom that we have in our country. An area like, let's say, minerals. I mean, we are talking about small-scale mining and all of that, and the conversation around Galamsey and everything. But there are indigenous Ghanaian companies
legitimately doing
who are legitimate, and they have complied with all the regulations with regards to Minerals Commission. So you can go through Minerals Commission, get all your licenses, get your prospecting license, get your exploitation license and everything, exploration license, and then you go ahead and do your production, and you'll be fine. Another entity or one organization that we need to take advantage of is the GIPC. It's for basically foreign companies that wants to come here with a certain minimum capital. But do you know Ghanaian companies can also register and get the advantages that one can receive from GIPC, like tax incentives, like immigration quota, and you go through these things and you are free from all these tax liabilities for a certain period of time.
Right. I have a comment on social media. This is from Ken at Legon. Good afternoon to you, Ken. Thank you for listening to Masterclass. He says, I have 2 questions. Number 1, can a company downgrade to a partnership? Let's take that one first. Can a company downgrade to a partnership?
So if you're a company limited by shares,
yes,
and you
maybe
want
by
to
guarantee,
yes, you can decide to change what you do. So you don't want to be a limited liability company anymore. You can decide to go to the winding process and then now become a partnership. You have 2 people or 3 people, you come together, then you form a partnership. So and then you keep the name that you used to have, just that you not have the limited after it anymore.
But there's a process to go through.
Yeah, there's a process to go through.
Okay, so Ken, the answer to that question is yes, there's a process to go through. And I'm not sure if the word is downgrade, but you can change the nature of the company. As I say that, a statement comes to mind: can the leopard change his spots? In this case, yes, the leopard can change his spots. The second one is, it says, please, what does compliance say about company names as well as passing off? As it's a big deal in Ghana. I don't know what passing off means, Ken. If you're listening, just text us a bit more clarification. But it says, what does compliance say about company names? As well as passing off.
When it comes to company names, you first have to search at the register of companies whether or not the name has not been registered by any entity already. So if the name has not been registered, it means it's available for you to have the company registered in the name that you seek to. And then when you go through the process of registration, then you have your name. And you can also get your name, the company name, reserved for you for a period of time. So you pay an amount of money, I think it's about 50 cedis or 100 cedis, I'm not so sure of the amount, at the Registrar General's department. And then they will keep the name for you for a period of time.
Okay, so Ken is back. Ken says, I think by passing off, he means imitating a known company. So instead of, let's say, McDonald's, you say McDonald's or something like that. Ken, I hope I'm speaking your mind. What does the compliance say about the name? First of all, you explain that if the name has been used already, there's no way the RGD is going to allow you to use it. If there are slight similarities and a change, what makes a name different from the other? Is it nomenclature? Is it spelling? Is it what?
Yes, spelling, and sometimes when it's too close to the other. So we have Joy FM. Then someone says that I'm Joy, but my Joy is J-O-I. The Register of Companies will not allow.
And I find that they are very strict on names that look like other people. There's no way they're going to allow you to use
a certain brand.
Right.
And it's grown over time.
Right.
And then someone changes a name which sounds the same way as yours. And he wants to register a broadcasting company. It will not be allowed.
Of course not. Of course not. I've got a few more comments. This one is from Digor in Medina. Thank you, Digor, for listening to Masterclass. Says, my question is, how can you do all these compliance things while starting a business? Digor, this one, I won't let Richard answer it. The answer is that get a lawyer. Get a lawyer, consult, get somebody.
Not necessarily a lawyer. I mean, there are management consultancy companies.
Or a management consultancy company like Firstcode.
Yes.
They're able to help you to do this. His second question is, how can you pay all workers as a starter? I'm not sure how. It says, can you postpone payments to workers or SNIT salaries tax at the starting of a business? Thank you. That's the goal from Medina. Can you postpone some of these payments?
That's why when you are starting a company, you need an initial capital to start with.
Yeah.
So you cannot engage people and then you not pay their salaries. You not pay their social security. So the answer is no, Digo. You not pay their taxes. No, it is not allowed.
Once you start, what I do can happen is, if you have not done any business in a particular period, you can write to the GRA and say you have not done any business.
Yes.
And that one is on record.
You are exempted from paying.
But
all of
once you've done
days.
business and you have not written that letter, Digo, I'm sorry, you have to pay. This one, you didn't add your name. It says, yeah, I've registered a company and have not opened an account yet and have not started operating for the past 4 years. Is the company still viable to operate now? If yes, what do I do to get the company activated if I don't have an office yet? I'll let lawyer take this one. Richard.
Yes, so if the company has not been deleted from the list of companies at the Registrar General, but you do a quick search and find out whether the company still exists. And if it exists, you go through the necessary process to make sure that all the things that you need to have, you have them to be able to operate and then have your account. But like you said initially, when you are not operating, you can tell the Registrar General that you should be exempted because for this period of time, you did not operate as a company and that for these reasons you were unable to work, and so they should be
So go to
exempted
the
from all of
RGDs
these.
and
Go
find
to the
out.
RGD and find out whether your company.
But additionally, once you register a company, every year you're supposed to do a certain renewal.
Yes.
If you haven't done it, just go and check. This one is Emmanuel. It says, "Good afternoon. I want to know what to do in case you register a company, but unfortunately you couldn't start due to certain circumstances." Again, the same answer. Go and check if it's still viable and if you can reactivate it. I think I have enough time to just take one more comment. There's a comment here on social media. You didn't add your name. Okay. All right. It's not too clear what the question is. If you can just resend it again, we'll try and okay. No, I don't think that's for me. Right. Okay. So we just got a few seconds to go. I had a lot of questions to ask, but what should we remember from today's conversation if we remember nothing at all?
So what we have said in a nutshell is that there are laws and regulations governing the operations of businesses. So once you have a registered company, make sure you adhere to these rules. And then we should make sure that we take advantage of these opportunities, because as a business, you may want to get donor support. You may want to get some grants. There are grants available. There are support available. But if you don't have good books, if your books are not looking very good, if you have not complied with the requirements of the law, if you don't have the right corporate governance structures in place, nobody is going to take you serious. So don't think that your business is too small. Don't think that your business is too big to comply. Wherever you fall, medium scale, large scale, small business, make sure that you comply with the regulations and the requirements of the law, because it will catch up with you. There are penal sanctions, there are civil liabilities, there are criminal liabilities for things that you do in breach of the Companies Act, and then the industry specific act. And like I also said earlier, Ghanaian entities and companies should take advantage of the opportunities with GIPs, even with free zones. If you have a business and you think that what you are doing you can export. Now, a lot of people are doing amazing things in Ghana here, and you can export about 70%. When you go to free zones, you are exempted for 10 years from tax. And then after the 10 years, instead of paying 25%, you pay 15%. It's downgraded for you to pay 15%. So all these advantages are there the moment you comply with the requirements of the law to have your business well structured. And even for foreign companies who wants to start up here or who wants to partner with Ghanaian entities, like I said, we are organizations around Firstcode, for instance, would assist you to do some of these things, and then your business will grow.
Thank you so much, Richard. This has been an exciting conversation. I wish we had a bit more time. We continue with the same conversation next week as we come your way with another edition of Masterclass. We love to share information here and to make sure that you become better for it. Today's edition of Masterclass focused on business compliance. We come your way again same time next week with yet another exciting edition. My name, as always, is Yaw Barnafo. Up next, we continue with The Ignition with Sammy Forson. Thank you for listening, and see you same time next week.